Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Ayer Select Board meeting for Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom and Channel 8. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom, meeting ID number 897-9080-0793, or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, the Assistant Town Manager, at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100 prior to the meeting. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. The first item up will be a review and approve the agenda. Were there any changes to the agenda as presented?
Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Pomprian.
Good evening. Respectfully request to amend under my report, adding an item number 6, consideration of RFT for police chief cruiser.
Okay.
I have no objections to that. I have no other adjustments to the agenda.
Okay. Member Livingston? No?
I have nothing.
Okay, I don't have any changes either. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Seconded.
Okay, Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the amended agenda is approved. Next, there are no announcements this evening. Excuse me, next up, do we have anybody on for public input? Okay, not hearing or seeing anybody. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is going to be from an overview of the Ayer Rental Assistance Program from Ms. Alicia Hersey. Hi, Alicia. Oh, it doesn't look like you're muted, but I can't hear you.
Alicia, is the volume?
My volume.
Is it up on your computer?
Yes.
Okay, now I can hear you. Now it has an echo.
All right, I turned mine off. Go ahead,
So hold on, everyone.
Okay.
You guys are feeding back to each other. Alan, can you? Yeah, there you go.
This is why we can't have nice things.
We
Right.
can't, and all the technology, but you can't be in the same room.
All right, Alicia, yours is still not working?
Alicia,
Still nothing.
testing your audio. Right next to the microphone button is an arrow. You would just might need to select a different input source. Or you could just swap places with Alan.
Take my chair and I'll take yours. Now we might get an echo because I turned mine on. Can you hear me now?
Yep, and no echo now. Yep,
Okay, good. Sorry about that.
no
Little
problem.
technical difficulty. Okay. Cindy, we sent some slides for you.
Yes, Carly has those.
Thank you. So the Town of Ayer's Affordable Housing Committee and Trust have been working hard to put together a program for housing assistance, rental housing assistance. The trust was given funds of $30,000 from the CPC in last fall, not this past fall, but the fall before. And what they wanted to do, what they decided to do was to try and put together a rental assistance program. So this is just two quick overview slides. We have guidelines that the trust has voted on that have been sent to the town council to review. But an overview of the rental assistance program is they will be helping 5 Ayer families with a supplemental rental assistance of $500 per month. The assistance will be for 1 full year, and the oversight of the program will be the Ayer Affordable Housing Trust, and the administration of the program will be the Ayer Community and Economic Development Office. And the funds come from the CPC. This is a program that we've seen a number of towns put together, and it's to fill in the gaps between people are finding themselves waiting for rental assistance on the state and federal sites, sometimes as much as 10 years, but often 3, 4, and 5 years. And the difference between, I know Alan and I had gone out and talked to Boxborough, and then the trust and the Ayer Affordable Housing Committee people have talked to many people and different programs, and finding that this assistance is the difference of somebody's buying food for their family or buying medication. And so it's just one way that we can help in the affordable rental battle of helping people make ends meet. And on our trust is the Board of Selectmen's chair, Sean Copeland. And Sean, did you want to say anything about the process that we went through for developing this program?
Sure. So just so the members of the public listening, other board members know, this has been a great group to work with. This has been very well thought out. One of the primary things that I think we all were in agreement on was to make this process for people that it would help as easy as possible, to be streamlined. Myself and a couple other members had an experience in our other lives have seen where programs are so cumbersome and they require so much information that's often difficult for people to provide. And so we've really spent a lot of time trying to get this application process to be something that's easy for anybody. And I think it's, we modeled this program off of what several other towns have done. We use them kind of as like a template and taking the best parts from those programs. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We've seen things that have been successful in other places, and we're hoping that with the implementation, it's going to be a great program for the town of Ayer.
Did anyone have any questions about it? We can get guidelines out to everyone. So this is for low to moderate income, but because we're starting out with a small program and we're helping just 5 families, my guess is that we will be helping 5 extremely low to low income, and extreme low income. We're going to 60% of the AMI, which is not even the 80% that you can to be moderate income. This truly is for low income, and we will help the poorest people first. So the people that qualify, and some of the guidelines will be things like if you have children in the school system, you will get extra points for that. But we're going to start with their income, and then we'll give them some points for things like having children in the school or being disabled or that sort of thing. So.
Scott or Janice, did you have any questions?
No, I think this is a wonderful idea. So it sounds good.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great program. So the initial funding was 30,000. Going forward, is that going to be increased working with CPC?
So what we wanted to do is 30,000. If you do the math out, that helps 5 families at $500 a month, and 30,000. We're just trying to try out the program, seeing
Okay.
how much is out there and see how much we want to expand it. But we will go probably back to CPC for at least that funding and possibly more at some point. But we also can look at other ways that funds might come into the trust. This is where we have the housing trust, and the trust can decide how they're spending their funds. And that's a great, we've got such a good team with the trust, and they can take a look at all the different options they have. We have a number of ways for money to come into the trust. CPC is the initial way, but we also have the inclusionary housing where developers can do in lieu of funds. There's other places where funds might come into the trust as we start working and balancing our housing in town.
Okay.
And then
I think one of the other things that I would just add to this is that as we've seen over the last couple of months, Ayer, not unlike everybody else, is in the midst of a housing crisis, an affordable housing crisis. And this is in no way like an end to that at all. Just simply one of the tools that the town is developing to assist in that. And so there are still things that are being worked on, but this is just one of those tools that we can use to assist with some of our most vulnerable populations.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you, we talked with town management and to see if there was a need for a vote, but the trust took a vote and agreed to go forward on the guidelines. What we are doing is we're sending the guidelines to council to make sure we're all correct in everything. And we put together the application and hope to have, as soon as we get the green light on this, we put the application out and we publicize it in many different ways so that people know about the program. And then we have it out there for about 45 days, and then we process all the applications. So we're hoping to have it out, if possible, the first, getting the applications and the guidelines out by the beginning of January, but we'll see what happens with council.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I would say, like, also, unlike a lot of other programs, we have this one has, like, especially for this kickoff or initial one, a short turnaround time, so that we can, we're addressing the issues now and not, a 6-month application process and then a 3-month review process. And we're trying to be as proactive as possible. Any other questions?
No.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
All right, great. All right, Alicia, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
All right, next item is our public hearing. Board Member Livingston, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Town of Ayer, notice of public hearing, Ayer Select Board, FY22 tax classification hearing. The Ayer Select Board will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, December 7th at 6:15 p.m. via remote participation due to COVID-19 for the town's FY 2022 tax classification. At the public hearing, the Ayer Board of Assessors shall provide all information and data relevant to making a decision on allocating the tax burden, including the fiscal effect on the available alternatives. For call-in information prior to the hearing, please contact atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220 extension 100. Date of public hearing, Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. Time of public hearing, 6:15 p.m. Location of public hearing, remote participation meeting held on Zoom, Zoom ID number 90800793. Meeting materials and information may be obtained by contacting Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm@air.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100. And this was advertised in the Neshoba Valley Voice, November 19th, 2021 and November 26th, 2021.
All right. You have to remind me, do I need to take a motion to go into public hearing?
No,
No, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
just to
I don't
come
know why I
out.
can't remember that, but
Just to leave.
eventually I'll remember. All right, great. Okay, so we are now in a public hearing. And going to go ahead and turn it over to, I believe, Mr. Hogan.
Good evening.
Good evening, Tom.
Nice
Hi,
to see
Tom.
everybody again. I didn't think we'd be doing this a year later again, but it's my second Zoom classification hearing of my career. My understanding is the presentation's displayed, Carly, so well, everyone can see it because I can't see it on my screen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll just let you know where I'm at during the presentation, Carly, so we can move through it seamlessly, hopefully seamlessly. The purpose of this public hearing is to record the select board's vote on 4 property classification options, each having the potential to impact Ayer's fiscal year 2022 tax rates. The 4 options are the open space discount, residential exemption, small commercial exemption, and residential factor. The first 3 options I mentioned, the town of Ayer has never adopted before, and for a number of reasons, the Board of Assessors would advise you not to do so this year. But per statute, we're required to alert you of their availability nonetheless. The fourth option, the residential factor, is something that the board has to approve. A residential factor of 1 will yield a single or uniform tax rate for all classes of property. And the adoption of any factor other than 1 will serve to create 2 tax rates, which historically has been a classified community. We've had a lower residential tax rate and a higher commercial, industrial, and personal property tax rate. In past years, I would have with me a form LA5 that would go into the Department of Revenue after the hearing with the selectman's signature recording all of their votes on the options this evening. But last year, they changed the procedure. All that's required is a certification of the meeting by the town clerk. So when I submit the tax rate forms, I'll attach that. Ms. Copeland already has that form, and we'll get that in shortly. So there's nothing you have to sign tonight, which is I think it's an improvement over the past anyway. I know it's a veteran board. I've been doing this hearing for longer than I want to admit. I know you've heard it all before. If you'd like, I can skip through the explanation of the first 3 options and move to page 6, where we begin looking at information that's relevant to adoption of the residential factor. So I'll leave that up to the select board.
Yeah, Tom, unless anybody on the board opposes or disagrees, would you mind going through those just for the benefit of people who are either watching or listening at home?
Yeah, I can do just a brief summary of each one if
Thank you.
that's what you're looking for. The first option number 1, is called an open space discount, and this is this option is designed to provide owners of large open space parcels a tax benefit that is subsidized by other residential taxpayers in the community. It's designed to provide an incentive for these property owners to keep their land in a natural and open condition and not develop it. include properties that are taxable under the provisions of chapter land, which is 61, chapter 61 forest land, chapter 61A agricultural land, and chapter 61B recreational land. It can include land under a permanent conservation restriction or land held for the production of income. And annually, each year, the select board may vote to adopt a discount of up to 25% of the open space share of the tax levy. And application of the open space discount will raise the residential tax rate and create a new lower open space tax rate that's applied only to people who would qualify for this exemption. We don't have any properties classified as open space. Most of our large parcels fall under the chapter land statutes. And in Massachusetts, there's only one municipality that has adopted an open space discount, and that's the town of Bedford. So we'd advise that you not do so this year. The second option is the residential exemption. This is adopted by 15 communities statewide. It's intended to provide a measure of tax relief to occupants of qualifying residential property by shifting the tax burden to other non-qualifying owners of residential property. It's properties that are excluded from receiving a residential exemption are accessory residential land, seasonal homes, and non-owner occupied residential property, which is investor-owned property. Communities that have adopted the residential exemption include Nantucket, Tisbury, and Provincetown. They've adopted it as a way to shift the tax burden onto summer residents and away from people who consider their homes on the Cape illegal domicile. And Boston, Brookline, and Cambridge have also adopted residential exemptions as a way of shifting the tax burden to investor-owned properties. But since in the town of Ayer, most people's home is their principal residence, their legal domicile, the adoption of a residential exemption would be wouldn't suit the town of Ayer in that regard. We're not a resort community, and we're not a community that has a large amount of investor-owned residential property. Excuse me. In any event, annually, the select board may adopt a discount of up to 35% of the average residential valuation. And the impact of this is that taxes will decrease on most qualifying residential properties by shifting the tax burden onto other non-qualifying residential property owners. It doesn't impact the commercial, industrial, or personal property tax rates. Any questions? And option number 3 is the small commercial exemption. We spent a lot of time on this in the past. It's intended to provide a measure of tax relief to some small business by increasing taxes on other non-qualifying commercial industrial property owners. Eligible properties must be included on a list provided to the Board of Assessors annually by the Division of Labor and Workforce Development. The Board of Assessors only has limited authority to add businesses to the list. And qualifying properties must have a valuation of less than $1 million and an average annual employment of 10 or fewer people. An application of the small commercial exemption will reduce taxes on some properties that house small businesses by increasing taxes on other non-qualifying C&I properties. Annually, the select board may adopt an exemption of up to 10% of the value of eligible parcels. In the application, what this does is the residential tax rate is unaffected. It will increase the commercial industrial tax rate, and then we'll actually have a third lower tax rate just for personal property. And we haven't recommended this in the past because generally it raises, number one, it raises our already high commercial industrial tax rate. It does not provide broad-based tax benefit to C&I taxpayers. And the tax benefit could be realized by the property owner and not ever make its way to the small business. So for those reasons, the Board of Assessors would advise that you choose not to adopt one this evening. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Starting on page 6, this information is all relevant to the residential factor. What I usually do annually is show the valuation trends over the last 6 years. Excuse me, in 2017, we're 65% residential value, 35% CIP valuation. And this year, for fiscal year 2022, we're up to 69% residential valuation and 31% commercial, industrial, and personal property valuation. The trend over the last 6 years has been that the residential percentage of the total taxable valuation of the town has been increasing steadily due to market appreciation and new residential construction. We're also seeing a lot of growth in the personal property sector, specifically utility valuation. And otherwise, I think those percentages would be further apart. I expect this trend to continue going forward. At least for fiscal year 23 and looks like into 24 also. So, and on the next page, on page 7, I have the levy percentages for the last 6 years. Again, even though the town of Ayer has 2 tax rates. So for fiscal year 2022, even though residential taxpayers made up 69% of the total taxable valuation of the town, they assumed only 52% of the tax levy. And conversely, even though the commercial, industrial, and personal property taxpayers are 31% of the total value of the town, they assumed 48% of the total of the tax levy. At least if you adopt a residential factor consistent with what you've done in the past, those would be the new percentages. And back in 2017, the commercial industrial taxpayers were paying 53% of the total tax levy, and residential taxpayers were at 47%. But as the years have gone on and residential values have increased, the tax has shifted to the residential taxpayers. So again, I expect that trend to continue at least into FY23. Any questions?
No, thank you.
I'm sorry, it's not being in the same room and looking at faces and getting an idea of what I should expand upon. It's a little more difficult to get a feel for what's going on, but bear with me, please. On page 8, this is a summary of our valuation for FY22. Now for FY22, the Board of Assessors completed a revaluation of all real and personal property in the town. This is required once every 5 years. It used to be once every 3 years, but under the Municipal Modernization Act passed a few years ago, they made it a 5-year cycle. But even in between the 5-year cycles, cities and towns are required to maintain property valuations at full and fair cash value on an annual basis. In any event, we were audited by the Bureau of Local Assessment for most of the year, and the town was granted final certification of the new valuations on November 16th. I'm sure I don't have to remind everybody that the residential real estate market is extremely strong in town, and it looks like, again, this trend is going to continue into FY23. We're seeing spikes like I haven't seen in an awful long time in property valuation. But For this tax year, FY '22, our total taxable valuation is $1.46 billion. Last year it was 1.35. So the total taxable value of the town is up a little over 8% over last year. The average single family home value was 367.9 in 2021. It's now 399.8. That's about an 8.7% increase. And our median commercial industrial valuation went from 291.5 to 310,700, which is a 6.6% increase. I use the median on commercial industrial valuations because we have at the top we have values over 20 million, and on the high end and on the low end we have probably $1,000 value on a piece of small commercial land. So I think the median better represents what's happening impact wise in the commercial industrial market than the median. So that's why I use that. The assessors are in the valuation business, but generally I'd like to provide the select board with a summary of this year's tax levy. That is the amount of money that's going to be raised through the property tax for FY '22. The way the tax levy limit is calculated is we take the prior year levy limit, increase it 2.5% under the provisions of Proposition 2.5, allow tax dollars relating to property growth, which is new construction, new utility valuation, new lots, anything that wasn't taxed in previous years. This year, new growth tax dollars is over $760,000, which may be the highest that I've seen since I've been here. And then debt exclusions are about $1.5 million. That's down from 1.7 last year. So total maximum tax levy under the law would have been 29.4 million this year, but our actual tax levy is only 26.3 million, which means with $3,090,213 under our levy limit, which and that's referred to as excess levy capacity. So it's additional property tax capacity that we can realize should we need to without an override or anything of that nature. It's a positive. It speaks to the financial health of the community, and it's an important number when we go through the bond rating process every year. They like to see that. So just to give you an idea, we're looking at about 3 million excess levy capacity for FY '22. That would be the 46th highest out of 351 communities in the Commonwealth. And even more interesting is there are 189 out of 351 communities that have excess levy capacities of $200,000 or less, which means most communities in the state, more than half, are at their levy limits annually. They have no extra room. So their levy limit every year is 2.5% plus growth. They have no rainy day capacity to increase taxes over and above that. In case of cuts in state aid or a town meeting vote to increase the budget more than growth in 2.5%. And what's a little dangerous about that is when the real estate market softens, and it eventually will, and growth dries up, then cities and towns that are at their levy limit generally have to can only increase the levy 2.5%, say 3% a year, and it really limits the growth of the levy going forward. But the town of Ayer is in extremely good shape when it comes to the reserve taxing capacity. In any event, last year's tax levy was 25.6 million. So the levy itself is up about 731,000, which is about a 3% increase in the tax levy over last year. On page 10, I just have a slide that shows the development of a tax rate, basically a single tax rate. We don't have a single tax rate in town, but I think it's a good illustration of really how it works. Again, people think assessed valuations exist as a mechanism for raising taxes, but actually they're designed as a mechanism for the disbursement of property taxes and the equitable disbursement of the property taxes, which is why cities and towns are required to meet the market value standard annually. Pretty simple math. This year's tax levy divided by the total taxable valuation of the town times 1,000 equals $18.01. If we didn't have a classified tax rate, that would be our tax rate for FY22. That's called the single uniform tax rate. Last year's single tax rate was $18.94. So the tax rate has actually gone down. And the reason it's gone down is all things being equal, when you raise the total taxable value of the town 8%, the uniform rate will drop 8%, but the levy is going up 3%. So it's netting out at about a 5% decrease in the tax rate. So whenever the percent increase in valuation exceeds the percent increase in the tax levy, tax rates will fall. So it's kind of nice to see tax rates falling again. That was a while since we saw that. Doesn't mean taxes are going down, but it means the market is healthy. On page 11, it's just a summary of the selectmen's vote at last year's classification hearing. Again, last year's total taxable value was 1.35 billion. 68% of that was residential, 32% was commercial, industrial, personal. But because we classify residential taxpayers assume 51% of the levy, and commercial, industrial, and personal assume 49%, and the corresponding tax rates were 14 for residential and 29.17 for CIP. We got those rates because the select board adopted a residential factor of 0.746 and some change based upon a 1.54 shift percentage. The shift percentage and the residential factor are two sides of the same coin, but the residential factor is what the select board will adopt per statute. So if you take that 1.54 and multiply it times the 32% full and fair cash valuation of CIP, you'll get 49% of the tax levy. And conversely, if you take the 0.746, multiply it times 68%, you'll get the 51% of the tax levy. So the residential factor is pretty powerful, and the lower the residential factor, the wider split between residential and CIP tax rates that you'll have. So any questions?
No, thank you.
Sounds good. And the last page is a table of estimated tax rates. These aren't all our tax rates. I have to fit it on one page. I have it in my file in case we go off the grid, but it's I generally just sort of highlight where we've been in the past and what the impact would be. The top line, a shift factor of a residential factor of 1, we'd have that uniform tax rate of $18.01. That would be the highest residential tax rate and lowest CIP tax rate we could have under the law. And then conversely, at the 1.75 shift factor, we would have the lowest residential tax rate that we could have under the law, and the highest CIP tax rate that we could have per statute. So what I did was I highlighted the residential factor at 1.54. That's what we've historically been at. I think we've been there about since FY18. FY17, we were 1.53. We went to 1.54 and 18. Have stayed there since. If you adopt a residential factor based upon a 1.54 shift percentage, the estimated residential rate would be 1366, and the estimated CIP rate would be 2774. Both rates considerably lower than last year. The impact on the average residential bill would be $259, and the impact on the median commercial industrial bill would be $116. And the average residential bill would go up 5%, the median commercial industrial 1.4. And the reason the residential would be going up more than the commercial industrial is residential value growth is higher than commercial industrial, so consequently the tax is going to shift to residential taxpayers. And what the classification system allows you to do is shift that increase back onto commercial industrial taxpayers. So I also highlighted the residential factors at 1.55 shift, 1.56, and 1.57. At 1.57, you would equalize the increase between residential and commercial industrial taxpayers, 3.1% for residential and 3.3% for commercial industrial. But at 1.55, the residential taxpayers are still assuming a higher percentage of the levy than they did last year at 52%. At 1.56, they're still at 52%. At 1.57, they're back to 51%, which is the same as last year. So I think that's generally where I think we should be looking at in terms of where we want to wind up with FY22 tax rates. So just to give you a little overview is I looked today, I sort of updated all my information from last year, but the town of Ayer has the 179th highest average single-family tax bill in the state. So we're kind of in the middle statewide in terms of tax bill. I really can't tell you where we sit with commercial industrial valuations because I just don't have the data to do that kind of calculation. But in any event, I guess I'll turn it over to the select board for your deliberations on this issue.
Great. Thank you, Tom.
No problem. Thank you.
Much appreciated. Janice or Scott, any questions for Tom?
No questions right at this time.
I have no questions.
Any discussion on or thoughts?
Is anyone allowed to speak?
Yes, if you just state your name and your address.
Fred Meshna, just at 21 Prospect Street.
Great, thank you, Fred.
I missed Tom's suggestion. Which chip factor did you say? Could you put that back up? Which one did you recommend? I just missed it. It went too fast.
I sort of recommended a range.
Yes, I know, but one of you picked one of those and said
Yeah, 1.54, the residential factor 1.54, that would be based upon the same shift factor that that the select board has adopted the last, I think it was 4 years. And, but again, 155 and 156 would also set the residential share of the tax levy at 52%. So if they wanted to shift the taxes back to CNI taxpayers a little bit, 1.55, you go to a 4.4% increase in residential and
yeah, I understand. I just didn't know which one you suggested.
Yeah, I just try to give them a narrow range and leave it up to the wisdom of the select board. I think that's
Okay, I'll give my, can we give our opinion on that later?
Yeah, you're welcome to give that your opinion now or your thoughts on it now.
My thoughts are this. I understand he's saying that the increase in the residential is higher because there's more residential, I guess, and higher evaluations, but that doesn't exactly explain why he would want to make residential pay a higher rate. The fact, moving into Ayer 16 or 17 years ago, I found, it's an industrial town, and industry takes a toll on the quality of life. And so I can't see why they would get to pay less taxes. They should pay in accordance with the what their the real cost of their operations, which includes quality of life, sounds and pollution and water consumption. So I even though there's an explanation about why the 5% would go at the chip factor of 1.54, I don't see why we couldn't come down more to the 1.56, at least the 1.56, and preferably from my opinion, 1.57 seems more equitable.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Meshna. I appreciate it. I believe I see Pauline.
Good evening, Sean. Yes, it's Pauline's iPad back. How are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Good evening, members. Tom Hogan, good evening to you as well. Just a
evening,
couple
Pauline.
questions. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Okay, that's good. This one may bring us both back to 2005, because I remember asking it as a new selectman, but I will be asking it from a different perspective today. The residential exemption you spoke about earlier deals predominantly with investor-owned properties. And I'd just like your take on how excluding investor-owned properties, such as what we are currently dealing with Devon's Crest, may have any impact on setting an exemption. Now, I know it's always been an investor-owned property, which is predominantly my question. There's no change to that property by not adopting a residential exception. Am I correct in that assessment?
Yeah, that's an interesting point you're raising. So you're saying if we had a residential exemption, Devon's Crest wouldn't qualify because it's investor-owned residential property, and consequently they pay at a higher residential rate than people who considered their homes their legal domicile. Do I have that right?
Yep, that's kind of where I'm going. I want to be sure that anyone online who might also watch this later understands that if the selectmen were to adopt a residential exemption, it would have absolutely no impact on Devon's Crest, because Devon's Crest has always been investor owned.
Right. The problem is that if the select board did adopt a residential exemption, most people would qualify. There'd be a handful of properties that didn't qualify. So those properties would probably see much higher bills, while it would provide little broad benefit to the people who do qualify. There's really not enough value in investor-owned and seasonal properties to really make that exemption work effectively.
And you are so better skilled at understanding and explaining this than me. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because I know there are Devon's Crest residents following this hearing. So that is one question. And Mr. Chair, I have a second question also for Tom, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
With respect to the excess levy capacity of $3 million on page 9.
Yes.
And again, this is a question hearkening back to 2005. How does this impact our potential free cash to have an excess levy capacity?
Oh, that'd probably be a question for a finance director. I don't think it's related to excess levy capacity, because excess levy capacity is unrealized revenue
Yeah.
that's potentially there.
My
Um,
point. So if we don't spend that by abatements or other such activities that the assessors do, which we talked about a week ago, and now I've completely forgotten. Abatements being the one I do remember. If we don't spend that, that then ends up in free cash, is my understanding.
No,
Well, if
that's-
we don't raise it, we don't spend it. So
Right.
I'm a little
Yeah,
confused.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Scott, please.
Yeah, just for clarification, so the way the free cash is calculated is when we build the budget process, we have our estimates for what our revenue is, and part of what goes into that is what the tax levy is. So it's be the 26 million, not the 29 million that we build our budget off of. And then as we spend, we have our actual revenues come in and we spend our budget. Any additional revenue that we have that we don't spend out through expenses becomes our free cash.
Understood. But that could possibly include that excess levy.
Only if we were to build a budget that said we were going to spend the full 29 million.
All right. So if you don't mind, may I carry that one forward one additional question? Could we not just reduce that excess levy to reduce the taxes? The
Well,
tax rate, sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump. Am I okay to speak, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
please, Mr. Hogan. Go.
Yeah, again, if it's not raised and you reduce it, it's the net zero
Okay,
formula. It would have to be raised to have any impact on rates or tax bills, and it's
Okay.
not raised. So it's, it's potential taxing capacity, more so.
but
than
it's not money
actual
we'll ever receive or realize.
it's money we could realize if we needed to. If, for instance, if it was determined that, next year, maybe a 10% increase in the budget is, for example, is needed, and town meeting approves it, then you can sort of tap into that excess levy capacity to meet your budget requirements. So.
All right, so I'm sorry, I'm just gonna ask that really hard question. Where's that 3 million sit until we decide if we need it or don't need it?
It sits at the Department of Revenue, and they test every city and town against that to make sure you're not over your levy capacity. But it sits on the books as potential future taxing capacity. So I want to say
Okay,
it's money in the bank, but it really isn't, because it's sort of theoretical money in the bank. It's not money in the bank till you decide it's money in the bank.
Can I speak for 1 second? I think Pauline's problem is she doesn't understand that we can only raise the taxes 2.5 without special town meeting to go over that limit. We haven't gone over that limit. The money that she's thinking we have somehow in the bank isn't really there. It's because we didn't need to raise it. We didn't need to go up to the 2.5 limit that the state to go up to. So that money is really money that we have. It's money that we didn't need to raise. We were allowed to raise, but we raise it because these guys are doing such an excellent job.
and if I could respond to Fred, I totally understand exactly what you're saying, and yes, I knew that is excess levy capacity. We're not raising that money because we don't have to. And the point I'm trying to make and get the answer, which is not coming, and I apologize for saying it that way, is that we don't have to raise our taxes as much as that because we have so much money available now. So we could easily raise our taxes to almost $30 million, but we're quote unquote only raising them to 26 million because we don't need to raise them more, because our levy limit and our property values, et cetera, have increased so significantly. So I didn't want to give the assessors and selectmen the answer to the question for lack of being, obtrusive with it. But yes, I understand exactly. We don't need to raise our taxes as high as it appears we need to do. And that's a concept that so many residents don't understand when they get their tax bill. Scott, I see your picture up there, so I'll let you speak because I know you can explain it far better than I.
Yeah, so I guess the way I'll explain it is as we've had really valuations go up within our properties, we're still looking at our budget based upon a prior year number. So when we look at, say, our budget was $22 million one year, our goal is to build a budget that doesn't move the needle any more than, maybe 3 to 4% overall. When we're having increases in revenue on top of that, based upon what we estimate, we still take that conservative approach. So we're ending up with free cash at the end of every budget cycle because we're trying to run the business as lean as possible while also providing the necessary tools to do the job, but also being very cognizant that we don't want to propose anything that may be looked at as either frivolous or possibly unnecessary that's going to have a significant impact on the individual residential tax rate. The biggest impact on people's actual tax bill is the valuation increase that their properties see over the years.
Thank you. You
Thank
said
you
it
for that.
so better than me.
Lisa,
So
did you
one-
have? Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
I would
sorry.
just like to add something. This $3 million of unused excess capacity didn't just happen this year. That's been building over 7
Yes,
years. So
agreed.
it's a cumulative amount that's been building. And because of conservative budgeting, we've been able to keep not to tax people at that higher amount. Because we estimate our revenues conservatively. We don't estimate our growth anywhere near where it comes in almost every year, because Tom is very conservative and I am very conservative too. I look past 3 to 5 years past history for other type of local business and revenues. And we also do a good job managing people's operating budgets. We've had excellent policy as far as capital. We send people out a long time ago. Debt was eating a big part of Ayer's budget. And so we came up with a capital planning policy that requires, as you know, Pauline, for anything over $350,000 to go out for a debt exclusion so that we have a dedicated revenue stream to pay for those costs. So this town is very well managed financially. And that $3 million is the result of the well-managed, the management of this town.
May I?
yes,
Oh.
Mr. Hogan.
I'm sorry, I just want to piggyback on something Lisa mentioned. Just to give you an idea where we are versus where we used to be. It wasn't too long ago, fiscal year 2012, that our excess levy capacity was $2,135. So it's something, again, what Lisa emphasized, it's something that's been built over 10 years. It's not something that's happened overnight, so.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. Two last comments. One, Lisa, we will miss you terribly.
Thank you.
Tom, please stay put for at least another year or two. And that's 3 comments. I'm sorry. Last thing I would like to say, Mr. Chair, is I certainly support Fred's comment that the 1.57 CIP shift factor seems to be the most reasonable because it will maintain that darn near 49% share of the tax rates between commercial and residential. And residential took a big hit this year with the reevaluations. Commercials went down. And we're still in the middle of this darned pandemic. So I would encourage you to all keep yourselves and the rest of us in your thoughts as you vote. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Pauline. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Janice or Scott, any further discussion on or thoughts?
So I'll give my thoughts if I may go first. Sorry, Janice, if you're trying to speak, you're not in my.
That's okay.
On my Zoom meeting. I think, looking at it over the weekend, I kind of lean towards a percentage increase that's a little more equitable between the two divisions. My initial thought was the 1.56, which it's not the even increase, but it does alleviate some of the increase from the residential if we were to say just go with the standard 1.54 that we had last year.
Janice?
So what was the last part you said, Scott? It kind of hiccuped.
Oh, sorry, the 1.56, it's not even percentage increase for both, but it at least gives some relief to the residential compared to like the 1.54 that we have been doing historically the last few years.
Okay. So if you look over the years, geez, between dogs and clocks right here. So if you look over the years, we've always tried to, kind of balance if it started shifting towards the commercial, the residential and everything. And plus, we do pay taxes also. So, we also got to look at that. I understand the 157 and it does look a little more equitable. The 5.6 is also good. But excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I don't have a problem with the 1.57, because it looks the more 50-50.
Okay, I'm open to that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
I'm also inclined to the 1.57. I felt like that was the most equitable as far as the percentage being almost the same for the increase or for the change rather.
Yeah.
All right. Any other discussion?
I guess.
No. Okay. So we need
These
sorry,
Zooms are so
Mr.
hard to
we need
pick up
motions
five.
for the first three, correct? For the open space, the residential exception, and
Correct.
the commercial exemption, correct? Okay.
Right.
I'll make a motion that the Air Select Board does not adopt the open space. What is that called? Sorry. Discount for fiscal year 2022.
Seconded.
Okay, Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the motion's passed.
I'll make a motion that the Air Select Board do not implement the residential exemption for 2022.
Seconded.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the motion's passed.
I'll make a motion that the Air Select Board do not adopt the small commercial exemption for 2022.
Seconded.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the motion is passed.
All right. Janice, you want to do this one?
Sure. I make a motion that the select board approve the CIP ship factor, the 1.57 for the FY22.
Second.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the motion is passed. Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Hogan, for your presentation.
Oh, you're welcome.
Always good. Always good, Tom.
Always
Yeah.
great.
Great job, Tom. Very informative.
Thank you, Ms. Cabri, for your explanation. Thank you, Mr. Meshna and Pauline, for your input.
I also want to thank all the people that joined in today, because
Absolutely.
a lot of times our tax classification hearing are the same time every year, and it's like crickets. So I'm very glad to see that people, were at least paying attention, and I hope next year they all join us in the select board meeting room in December of 2022, because if we're still doing this, I think we're all just going to cry.
Agree on many levels there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Board Member Hood.
I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Seconded.
All right, Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and we're out of public hearing. All right, that brings us to our next item on the agenda, which is our presentation from Dan, from the director of the DPW. He's looking for a vote to authorize usage of ARPA funds for Westford Road Sewer Project. Hello, Dan. How are you tonight?
Hey, good evening. Fine. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
That's good. Hi. Yeah, so I have one agenda item. You just mentioned voting to authorize the usage of ARPA funds for the Westford Road sewer replacement. So I put together a few quick slides and I'll share my screen with those. Oh. I can't share. Carly.
Again,
or-
I just turned it on. This is Cindy.
Okay, got it. All right. Here we go. Hang on 1 second, just gotta move that. And, okay, so Westford Road sewer repair. So you guys are familiar with this. We've presented this project to you before. So basically what happened was in March 25th of this year, we had a sewer collapse on Westford Road. And I have a map on the next page to show about where it was. You know, it resulted in a costly repair, sewer overflow, and some property impacts. We did further investigation. The pipe is asbestos cement, was installed in 1978, so it's a bit on the older side. The pipe services Mulberry Circle, Loon Hill, Nemco Way, New England Way, and the Groton interconnection. And it has flow from the Stony Brook pumping station, which is a lot of flow because Nasoya discharges there. So the flow is between 150,000 and 220,000 gallons per day. Asbestos cement pipe, it showed significant internal corrosion due to the hydrogen sulfide sewer gas, and I'll show you an image of that. So here's a map of the, hang on 1 second. Hey, can you get her out of here? All right, sorry, my daughter was crying.
Okay. I've been there.
Yeah. So here's the map of the sewer we're talking about. So you can see this yellow dash line here. This is where the force main for Nasoya, or from the Stony Brook pumping station, discharges into Westford Road. So from about this manhole here, all the way down to just past the red schoolhouse, this manhole here, that's the asbestos cement pipe. We had a collapse March 25th of this year around this area here, so right near 22 and 19 Westford Road. Here's a look at some TV that was done of the actual pipe and the conditions in there. Hang on 1 second. Can you take her away? We're downstairs or something.
Wait a minute, I'm coming.
Okay, I'm back. Okay. So here's a look at the AC pipe. You can see it delaminating. It's in very poor condition. So in that location where it collapsed, we ended up.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Probably.
In that location of the collapse, that segment of pipe, we ended up replacing that entire segment of pipe.
Oh, Dan,
Yeah.
sorry. Cindy, are you able to mute Lisa's?
I'm gonna think they adopted.
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
this
you.
is muted
Sorry,
now.
Dan. Sorry, Dan.
Sorry, I
you're
thought that was Dan's.
You're okay. We'll get through this. Yeah, so that segment of pipe where we had the collapse on March 25th, that entire segment from manhole to manhole, we ended up replacing that. It wasn't possible to line it. This was because the fragility of the pipe. When we did the actual spot repair, we couldn't put a similar diameter pipe in place. When we tried attaching the couplings, the pipe just kept collapsing. And so our plan was to replace that segment of pipe. And then from there, we were going to line the remaining segments of pipe down to the red schoolhouse. But then we worked with our contractor. We had this all queued up. And then the contractor told us near the last minute that our manholes are severely deteriorated and they're unsafe for entry, even though the contractor had been going in them and analyzing them with the camera. So we what we did was we had a second opinion. I had another contractor come out who does manhole lining, and one of our consultants just check the condition of those manholes and confirm that they were in such poor condition. And they did confirm that. So in this section, it's about a 770 linear foot section of gravity sewer with 3 manholes. It needs to be replaced. There's really no rehab alternative. We did look at that and we were hoping to do it, but it just can't. So we have a cost estimate from our consultant, and it's $1.3 million for the replacement of the project. And that is a little the kind of some of the drivers that are driving the cost up a bit are obviously we have our current uncertainties with supply chains and cost materials, but also the depth of the pipe. It's roughly over 10 feet deep in some places. It's on a very busy road, so traffic control. And I mentioned the flows, 150,000 to 220,000 gallons per day. So that would need to be bypassed. So from, blocking at one manhole upstream, pumping that around the areas that we're going to be replacing into a further downstream manhole. So highlighted in purple here are the actual pipe segments that need to be replaced. So there's 3 segments, 770 linear feet. And there's this manhole, I believe, is one of these manholes is okay. There's only 3 manholes we need to replace. And then further downstream of that, we are still able to line. The condition down here is in better shape. So funding for the project, the total project cost is 1.3 million. We currently have approximately 600,000 in II funds, which we could use for the project. So the remaining funding we need is $700,000. And the executive buy board met on October 12th to discuss uses for ARPA funds, and this was brought up as a potential use. And the executive buy board did pass a motion to recommend the select board utilize 700,000 of ARPA funds for this project. And I believe this is my final slide. So ARPA, just in general, it's a federal stimulus to aid public health and economic recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. And one of the potential uses is infrastructure, water, wastewater, and broadband. So Ayer's total ARPA funds are roughly 2.45 million. And as I mentioned, the buy board voted to recommend the select board authorize 700,000 for this project. And that needs to be committed by December 31st, 2024. So I mean, I guess I'm done with my presentation. Our other options are we could do nothing. And if we do that, we could have more costly repairs and potential, issues that damage to properties, things like that from an overflow. We could find another funding source, and that could take more time. So there could be more of a chance for issues. The pipe's in such a bad condition, it really needs to be taken care of immediately. So the other good thing about using the ARPA funds is it wouldn't impact the sewer rates, applying it to the sewer project. So so that's my presentation. We got through. My daughter's coming on. So if you guys want to have a discussion, that'd be good.
Yeah, Dan, just do you know how long this project, just out of curiosity, would take?
It could be done next year, next construction season. So we actually have an engineer currently designing it. So they're putting together the plans, our wastewater engineer, Arcadis. So our goal is to bid it this January and then have a contractor ready to go for the spring, and then do it spring, summer next year.
Okay, cool. And then Scott, did you have anything to add from like the buy board on this discussion?
Yeah, thank you. So we were supposed to do like our finalized vote, or we did take a vote, but kind of put together an information piece for the select board at our November meeting, but that got canceled. So that's why this is probably the first both of you are hearing about it. One of the interesting things with ARPA funds, so as Dan said, it's about 2.45 million that has been allocated to the town. We only need to allot it and use it, I believe, by 2026. So looking at the restrictions on the usage, we looked at really kind of wastewater in infrastructure as the biggest piece that could really have a good impact on the town. This project did come up needing immediate attention. So therefore, the approach for the buy board is to allocate or recommend allocating the 700,000 immediately for this project, and then kind of take a wait and see over the next couple of years that we have to spend the funds to see if anything else urgent comes up. So it gives us a little more flexibility at how we want to expend those funds.
Thank you. So Janice, any questions?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any further questions. I think you did a great job explaining that. All right, Scott, if you don't have anything further to add,
No.
entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the select board vote to authorize the usage of up to $700,000 of ARPA funds for the Westford Road Water Sewer Replacement Project.
Seconded.
Okay, board member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and it's approved. Great, thank you so much, Dan.
Good night.
All right, have a good night. All right, brings us to our next agenda item, which is our town manager's report. Mr. Pompriand.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Select Board. I hope you're all well and had a great Thanksgiving holiday. In terms of the administrative update, you have in your packet the town warrants that were reviewed and approved since the board last met on November 16th. Additionally, I'd like to just start off the administrative update by thanking the town for a very successful holiday stroll this past Saturday. I think it was great that the community event could happen again and to have everybody out there. And a special thanks to Alan Minoyan for his efforts, Carly Antonellis for her efforts, as well as Carly's efforts on the lights on the Rotary and downtown. Alicia Hersey, our police and fire chiefs and DPW director, and our public safety departments for making that a very successful event, which has become an annual event. And we look forward to that next year as well. And in line with the holiday surprises sort of continue in air, I'm told from Mr. Minoyan that on Saturday, December 18th, around 4 o'clock in the evening, the ice sculptures will be back. There's some new surprises with the ice sculptures. So the installation and the ice carvers will be out around 4 o'clock on December 18th. So we encourage folks to check those out, and hopefully the weather will allow them to last a little bit longer. And lastly, and I want folks to stay tuned, but I'm told from both Chief Gill and Chief Johnston that they're going to be escorting a very special visitor to Ayer coming from the North Pole, looking to be around Sunday, December 19th, around 3 p.m. And there'll be more information about that as the chiefs are working on that. So stay tuned on that for the holiday season. I also just want to welcome Miss Christina Zoller is our new assistant town clerk. She was recommended by the town clerk, Miss Susan Copeland. She started on December 6th, succeeding Lori Fritz, who retired after many, many years. So Christina is an Ayer resident. She started on December 6th, hit the ground running. So if you get a chance, a new face at Town Hall. The focus of the administration has really been on the FY23 budget process, which I'll get into in a moment, not just the development of the operating budget, but the capital budget process. The contract negotiations are well underway. I'm also working with town council and the DPW regarding the cemetery transfer per the authorization from town meeting in the fall of the Woodlawn Cemetery, and hope to have a status update for the board very shortly on that. And lastly, the Devon's wastewater agreement. The rate review committee will be meeting next Tuesday to receive an update on that and some further recommendations. And I know that that will be coming to the board shortly for discussions on that as well. So again, a very busy time, mostly, again, focused at this time of year around the budget.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Robert, you said the rate review committee's meeting next week?
Yes,
What day and time? I didn't have it in my calendar.
the 14th at 4.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So in terms of the FY23 budget update, and I put in the packet for the board this year's budget preparation directive. All of the budgets are due by December 30th, and this is per the budget timeline set by the board. And just for the public's benefit, if you go to the town's website, the FY23 budget tab of the budget page is where we're going to be populating again with all of the major documents related to the budget. If you go there now, the budget schedule is there. So the budgets are due December 30th. On January 14th, which is a Friday, the first draft of the FY23 budget will be transmitted to the select board and the FinCom. That'll also be in the select board's packet that Friday. So it'll also be available to the public on the 14th. That's draft 1. And then on Wednesday, January 26th at 6 p.m. on Zoom will be the first public forum of the budget. That'll be a joint meeting of the select board and the FinCom. It's mandatory for all town departments to attend. And this has worked well the last couple of years. I do agree with select member Livingston. Hopefully we'll get back to in-person next cycle around, but we do the 2 forums first in January on draft 1, and then move into the second forum in March. We'll be providing sort of an overview of the FY23 budget. It's also an opportunity for any questions from the public, and all of the departments will be there as well. On the capital front, that is moving ahead very well. The Capital Planning Committee will have met with the last 2 departments actually tomorrow, which are police and fire, that have FY23 capital requests. Our biggest challenge this year is to try to minimize the issue of debt exclusions, which is a real challenge. As the board is aware, the field project will be coming on the debt schedule. The debt schedule is somewhat tight at this point, and as Ms. Gabri has advised, and as we look at it, we're trying to minimize more debt this year. So that is a challenge because, as mentioned earlier, under the capital planning policy, any expenditure over $350,000 requires an exclusion. But the committee is making good progress, and I think we'll be having some recommendations for further discussion with the board in the near future. So lastly, which is the second item on my agenda tonight, is the FY23 update. I sort of gave an overview as where we're at. And what I just wanted, and I want to stress that this is a 50,000-foot view for initial discussion with the board. And it has to do with some staffing needs, specifically staffing needs at the town hall operations, if you will. And I sort of put that in my memo to the packet to the board, that this year in the directive, in previous years, we've sort of always have stressed, no new positions. That doesn't mean there hasn't been new positions as the process goes forward. This year, we didn't put that in there, meaning no new positions. Now, that doesn't mean just because if departments submit something that's going to happen. It's all a process, and it's a process that's based on available funds and resources. But as we move forward, and on the 26th in January, I'll have some more specifics as this is shaping. But as we're putting the FY23 budget together, there are some things I just want the board to consider in some areas as we develop this. This is framed not just over the COVID period, the last 20 months, which has significantly changed I think, all aspects of life, including municipal government. That goes without saying, but this even started before that. Ayer continues to grow. If you look at the most recent census from the town clerk, and we're now over 8,000 people. There's been an increase over the last 10 years. There has been unprecedented building and growth that began to rev up in 2011 and continues at a rate. And at some point, everyone asks the question, when will that stop or change? But it is the level of development in the town, which is, I'm not making a judgment statement either way, good or bad. It just comes with further challenges to the town and the municipal government, and as it pertains to land use. COVID-19 challenges have created more complexity and more requirements across the board for all sectors to consider it. And as we're finding with more residents and so forth, and newer residents in town, there are more expectations on services and an expectation on customer service. So I just want to sort of frame the environment that this is coming from as we move forward. So one of the areas that we're looking as a recommendation is for a town social worker. And in my memo, I want to stress none of these are etched in stone. It's to start the discussion. There are various permutations to these things. So for example, in the packet, it says town social worker, a full-time benefited position. Perhaps as we move through this process, that ends up being part-time or some other type of formulation, if you will. But the takeaway is there is a need for a professional social worker to provide services for this town, and Ayer is not unique in this. And as I put in the memo specifically, the issues, and these issues, the COVID just, if you will, accented all of these issues. But if you look at what we're facing, there is an affordable housing crisis facing the entire Commonwealth, including Ayer, the issues of homelessness, the ongoing opioid crisis and the impacts that has had, the impacts on mental health, domestic abuse, seniors, elder issues, isolation issues. The police chief, I know, is supportive of this concept, as is the director of the senior center. And I've heard from others. The issue is we don't have, we have great department heads, we have great folks with a lot of skills, but we do not have a dedicated professional social worker to deal with a lot of these issues. And as departments can tell you, I think they've done a great job. Some of these issues, and I think, Mr. Chairman, I know you're a social worker by education and vocation and training. Some of these, each of these cases or group cases, what have you, can take days or dedicated time. So I think in the FY23 budget, we really need to look at this concept of a town, a social worker. A second area has to do with the office of the town manager and the select board. This office, as I put in the packet, oversees, in addition to overseeing the administration of the 105 employees, you put in the COVID factors, all of the public records requests, the public records requirements, the purchasing and procurement, all of the Chapter 30B requirements, the ADA requirements, and Miss Antonellis has done a phenomenal job. She is the assistant town manager, though, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. There is a need for some administrative support, and you're going to see that in the takeaway for tonight across the board at the town hall. There is a need for administrative support to these positions. Now, of course, there's a lot of work to be done into exactly what does that look like, but we need to start that conversation. Specifically related to that, and I should mention, we're seeing multiple retirements, and we're very happy for folks that are retiring, but the number is significant. Why I bring that up is as we replace folks, in many cases, they will be starting at a lower level than folks who've been here for 25, 30 years in most cases. Here is an example. The benefits and payroll manager is going to be retiring before the end of the fiscal year. One of the initial proposals, and working with the treasurer and the tax collector, is to move the payroll back to the treasurer's office. That has begun. And to bring the benefits administration and that admin support to the town manager select board office. And there's a good synergy there with the benefits administration as it relates to all of the personnel and so forth. So there's an opportunity of evolving, if you will, that structure with some potential savings. Another area that the board's aware of, and it ties into the whole land use piece, the Conservation Commission approached this board earlier in the year saying that they intend to submit a request for part-time administrative support. As you know, we have a conservation agent, which was a part-time position a few years ago. It became a full-time position. When you factor in all the inspections that she has to do in the field work in that position, the piece that's falling short is the administrative support part of it. What they said they're looking for in the budget is probably 20 hours a week for administrative support on conservation. I will argue the same need exists on the planning board side. We have the town planner, which we're grateful for, and again, is doing all of the technical planning work. There's a need for some administrative support here. And as I mentioned in my packet to you, we do have the administrative coordinator position, which has been a great position, and the incumbent has done a great job. But what we've learned over time, she's doing half of the support for the building department, which I'll get to in a second, half of the support for the planning board, plus the support for the Board of Health and some other special projects. And what's happening is it's just not sustainable. That's not a reflection on the incumbent. It's a reality of the volume. So if you will, there's this administrative need, administrative support in the land use piece. We shift to the building department. The building department and the ZBA. So the zoning boards of appeals, the administrative support for the ZBA dates back 7 years ago. Miss Antonellis did step up to volunteer to do that, to do the administrative support for the ZBA. As the building issues and all these land issues increase, the workload for the ZBA has increased, that there's the need to have the assistant town manager doing the ZBA support. That really needs to go to a more administrative support function with the building department. Additionally, the administrative coordinators half work with the building department, at least over the last 2.5 years, would just be the building department. The building department, just to share with the board and the public, and I'll get this to you, the building department as of November 15th has issued 371 building permits. I believe it's up to 420 as of today. So multiple permits a day. The commercial projects alone have brought in over $1 million. There's the Catania expansion, McDonald's, the various other industrial projects. There are 29 new commercial and residential units scheduled. The Shaker Mill Pond project is 23 new homes. Panther Place will be 26 new homes. Stratton Hill, if as that moves forward, is looking at another 40 new homes. The 40B project on Fitchburg Road would be 100+ units, plus the Ayer Shirley High School field project. The building department is in need of some dedicated administrative support, and we're looking at that administrative support being building support and ZBA support. Also related to the building department is a need for additional funding specifically dedicated to zoning enforcement. So we do appreciate the board support and the town support. A couple years ago, believe it or not, just a few years ago, the building commissioner was a part-time position. And we appreciate the board's support and the town support to make it full-time. And the intent was, when we made it full-time, was that the building commissioner would be able to do the zoning enforcement. It's not that the incumbent can't do it. It's a matter of resources. With these, he is responsible for all of these permits, plus all of the inspections, re-inspections. And then the issue of zoning enforcement, we need to put some resources there. The assistant building inspector right now is funded just to cover when the building commissioner is, say, on vacation or so forth. In working with the building commissioner, we're looking at if we had 20 hours of dedicated funding or 20 hours for dedicated zoning enforcement, the assistant building inspector and the building commissioner will be able to tackle a lot of these zoning and code enforcement issues, which are facing the town. So that when we calculate that, that'd be about a $30,000 value. But this is to address all of the issues, and the board is aware. We've had residents come earlier in the year with concerns. That's an area that is not a new position. That would be looking to provide the funding for the assistant building inspector specifically to do zoning, excuse me. One of the last things that I just in today that isn't in the packet, but when the parks director came to see me and they're developing their budget, there's another area, the parks department, Mr. Thomas does a great job. I mean, he does the whole thing soup to nuts, from coaching kids to cutting grass to the whole deal. The piece that's missing there is some level of administrative support. He does an excellent job, but when you call, doing the, some of the paperwork and so forth, all things that Jeff can do and has done a great job with. But as we're trying to move to further develop the parks, there's another area where there is some need for some administrative support, if you will. And so for the purposes of my memo, and I know in the interest of time, I wanted to start this discussion with the board to get your initial thoughts, to get you thinking about it. We're going to obviously further develop it and refine it through the budget. I'm a realist. I've explained this to all of the departments that it's not just going to be a carte blanche and that everything that we put forward is going to happen. But I think we need to really begin to look at further investing in the personnel of our town for the benefit of the town and for the benefit of the people. And the last piece, and I think we can all be proud of this, we've invested considerably in all areas, also including the town hall. We know that. But for example, over the last 10 years, we added 2 police officers, we added a school resource officer, we added a records clerk. In the fire department, we added a fire prevention lieutenant, we added the deputy fire chief, and we have 5 new firefighters through the grant, which is great. And in DPW, we've hired the town engineer, and recently the water and sewer superintendent and the billing clerk. And in town hall over the last 10 years, we did make the building commissioner from part-time to full-time. We did make conservation agent from part-time to full-time. We did get the town planner, the IT director when there was no IT, and in the benefits payroll. So I am aware that we've also invested there, but we're at a point where we need to put some specific resources to the extent we can in these areas. So with that, I will stop. If there are any initial questions for the board.
Scott or Janice, any questions? Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm trying to wrap my head around. So walk me through really quick. So the benefit and payroll manager, which is existing in the packet, says will retire.
Mm-hmm.
So those responsibilities are going to be split. Payroll is going to go back under treasury. And then the benefits is going to come under your office. We understanding that correctly?
Correct. So yes,
Okay.
so the pay and the key piece is the payroll piece will go to the treasurer where it should be. There's no increase of staff there. In fact, Mr. Johnson is in the process of doing the transition with Ms. Bashara, who's an employee there. So there's no addition there. The benefits piece, that benefits specialist, that's the piece that's specific. It should be under the select board town manager's office. And what we're proposing is that function, and that individual could also provide some level of administrative support. So from a financial point of view on this one piece, the benefits and payroll manager right now, it's about a $55,000 position. And in what we've looked at, a benefits specialist with some admin support is between 45 and 50. So there's not a huge savings, if you will, but it's like one is leaving and one is coming.
Okay, but it's more of a net zero. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily the full impact that you have in the packet.
Correct.
Okay. And then the administrative support specialist and the administrative support for conservation and planning, those are brand new positions with full benefits, correct?
So, right, so initially, so selectmen could, what I put is, how should I put that, what we'll call the maximum scenario. So what is proposed there is that the administrative support for conservation and planning would be a new full-time position. But as I mentioned in the beginning, and we're looking at this, there are different permutations to this. And what I'm getting at is, what I'm hearing from conservation is they need 19 to 20 hours. They're looking for part-time administrative support. And I would argue the same exists on the planning side. So not to get way down in the weeds, but are we looking at part-time components or one full-time position?
Okay.
And Robert, if I could just remind everyone that, so Heather, the administrative coordinator, currently does building and planning.
Right.
So that planning function would go now with conservation because of the extreme workload in the building department.
Right, exactly. So the administrative coordinator who is doing right now, and that's a full-time position, that's doing the planning, building, Board of Health and so forth. And that's why I mentioned in my memo, we have to somehow integrate this into it, is looking to move more towards the building and the ZBA piece.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Janice?
Well, I think this is great that we're discussing this. As far as like, just, I know that there's going to be some people who are going to walk away and they're going to be like, oh my God, they're hiring all these positions and everything like that. So I'm glad Robert has stressed it numerous times that it's in the talking stage and that we have to fine tune it. But you know, some of these positions were even created in the last 6-7 years. The administrative coordinator, that was created about 6-7 years ago. And at the time, doing all those functions seemed like a good idea and feasible, but as it's been pointed out, we've grown. So I'm glad we're having this discussion, and I think that as we go forward, all that I would ask is that, you know, if need be, we prioritize which one is we think would be the more important one.
Mr. Chair, if I could just,
Yes.
to select member Livingston, excellent points. I think the first takeaway for tonight, just for everybody's benefit, the budget is a process. So we're starting that process. That's number one. Number two, ultimately, we need to get the information and hear from departments what they need. But I've made it clear, everybody understands you're not just going to get whatever you ask for. And to Janice's point, there's no question there has to be some further refinement, which is underway. There's going to have to be some further prioritization. I mean, we estimate that if you just did this proposal, the proposal itself is about $240,000. Now, we know we got to, you know, work at that and prioritize. But I wanted to start the discussion, and we also know, and we have that sometimes we have to phase certain areas in and so forth. But we're at a point where we need to begin to make some progress in some of these areas because the status quo is just not sustainable. And that's not a reflection on any of the people or a reflection on the town. It's more of a reality. And I think the last piece, as Janice mentioned, ultimately, you know, the budget will go through the whole process. We have the 2 public forums. Ultimately, it will rest with town meeting and town meeting's approval. So I think that's a great point for the purposes of tonight, that we don't sound the alarm that, oh, we're going to just hire all these people, because that would be a disingenuous and an inaccurate statement. At this point, we're having the discussion, doing some planning, and looking to how we can approach this in a affordable, sustainable manner.
Robert, most of these positions or recommendations seem to be based out of town hall. Is this, would you say, does this represent a fair audit all across town government for personnel needs?
It does at this point, as I mentioned. If, for example, the fire department, we have made investments in, and we're about to make a significant one with the 4 new firefighters. So we're meeting those standards. Same in police. We've made those investments over that time. So I don't anticipate any new personnel requests in fire or police. And I don't anticipate any new DPW requests, because we just recently, with the water and sewer superintendent and the billing position, which were both critical and I think both good victories for the town, don't anticipate any new personnel there. Don't anticipate any from the library, in talking with the library director. And I don't anticipate any at the senior center. In fact, the new director is looking at that overall structure as we speak. So to your question, Mr. Chair, yeah, the majority of it, if you will, is from the sort of the general government land use dimension, and largely administrative support in nature, with the exception of the zoning enforcement funding and the concept of the town social worker.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Sarah, yes, if you could just state your name and your address. Oh, you're on mute still.
Okay. Sarah Withy, Groton Shirley Road. I have a few comments. I can hold them, but I just wanted to check. When will be the next opportunity be to give comments, like January 24th, 26th?
For just public input comments?
Yeah, just on the budget. I mean, on these new positions? I want to hold them tonight.
Okay, well, you can bring them to the next meeting on the 21st, if you like.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add to Ms. Withy's question, I mean, obviously at any point, but as I mentioned earlier, as of January 14th, there'll at least be draft 1 of the budget. And I think the important thing to note is that's draft 1. It's subject to revision, addition, and deletion. So by then, and then the January 26th public forum, this will be further, refined and so forth. But obviously questions and input at any time, but I'm just saying the next next more accurate will be around the 14th.
I'm going to play it safe tonight and hold my comment, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? Okay. All right.
I know there'll be, Mr. Chair, I know that the board and the FinCom, when I meet with them and others, will have more questions and so forth, but we'll continue to work through the process. I appreciate the time tonight to start that discussion. So thank you all.
Thank you.
The next item real quick is number 3, is the authorization for burial in the town section of the Woodlawn Cemetery. And I want to make it crystal clear that the Woodlawn Cemetery is still under the Woodlawn Cemetery trustees. This has not happened in my time that I've been here, but there is a section of the Woodlawn Cemetery that's referred to as the town section. The town does not own it. What it is if many of you are probably familiar with this, and Ayer has this, it's a portion of the cemetery to bury individuals that have no financial means. And per the Woodlawn Cemetery rules, when there is a case, hence this issue tonight, of an individual that needs to be buried, they require that the select board vote to authorize that. So there is an individual that passed recently in Ayer that is looking to be buried in this section that is being handled by the Anderson Funeral Home. Woodlawn Cemetery at this point will handle everything. What they're looking for is for the board to vote to authorize that burial. And we would send a letter that you'd voted to authorize it.
Janice, yeah.
I'm not even going to discuss this. I say yes. I'm ready to make the motion to just go ahead and approve this.
Go for it then.
Yes, please do.
I make a motion that the select board authorize the burial in the town section of Woodlawn Cemetery.
Second.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. It's approved.
Thank you. The next item in your packet, and again, I want to thank Ms. Antonellis for all of her work on this and putting this together, the 2022 annual license renewals. And through you, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it over to Carly, who does an excellent job with this, and present the issue.
Good evening. So in your packet, you'll see a familiar looking list that I send every year. I just update it, obviously. But we are sent out renewals at the end of October, and we're pretty far along in the process. We're 80% collected on fees at the moment. So if we get a vote to approve the list as it appears in the packet, we still have several steps. For example, the restaurants and bars are still going through their fire department and building department inspections. That's an annual inspection they go through. And I'm still, I have to ensure that those bars and restaurants also have like their liability insurance. And then I have to check with the auto dealers that their bonds are still good and in place. So all that happens, we check for back taxes and water and sewer fees. And once all that's complete and we have the board vote, I'll print out licenses. I haven't done that quite yet, but we would have you approve tonight. What's
The
that?
assembly line.
Yeah, exactly. So we won't release anything until all the conditions are met, but it helps if we can get your vote earlier in the process. So if you have any questions.
Yep, Scott or Janice?
No questions.
No questions.
Okay, I don't have any either, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the select board approve the 2022 license renewal as long as all legal requirements have been met.
I will second.
All right, Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the motion's approved. Thank you, Carly.
Thank you, Carly.
Thank you.
Carly.
It's such a nice list. She did such a great job.
You should have seen it years ago.
Oh, I bet.
Robert's told me the stories, yeah.
All right.
The next item, Mr. Chair, briefly was a discussion on the January 20, it should say the January 2022 meeting schedule. I just noticed on the agenda it says 2023. What we
Are we
wanted,
so far gone from the pandemic
Yeah.
that we've just decided to skip 22?
yes, all your talk about meeting in person. Why I brought this up is in the last few years, the board has, so you generally meet the first and third Tuesdays of the month. What happens in January is this year, for example, January 4th would be your first meeting in January. However, you're meeting on December 21st, which is a Tuesday. Then there's some couple holidays in between. What you've done in the past is have met for the third, have the meeting in January on the third Tuesday, meaning the 18th. And if we needed another meeting, we've scheduled it. So again, a decision doesn't have to be made tonight, but just wanted to get folks thinking. The last few years, you've generally done the third Tuesday in January. And then, of course, we have the joint meeting on the budget that Wednesday, the 26th. And if we needed another meeting to schedule it. Don't need a decision per se tonight. I know you're meeting again on the 21st, but wanted to get that out there.
Thoughts or questions?
No, I mean, this is normal practice and like Robert has said, and we always reiterate that if there was a need, he would just send out an email saying, hey, look, we got to meet, and we'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, I agree.
All
No
right, do we want to move on it tonight or wait till the 21st or?
Do we need a formal vote, or is it
I don't
just,
think so.
I guess by consent, I got more?
Yeah,
Okay,
you don't need a vote.
Okay.
okay, perfect. So I think we're all in agreement then.
And then lastly, per the amendment, and I appreciate the board's consideration, the last item, number 6, is a consideration on an RFT for the police chief cruiser. And I am joined by Police Chief Gill. When I provided the board with the memo from the chief, in a nutshell, this is the situation. Obviously, last year when we went through the capital process, there were requests for several vehicles, and one of them was for the new police chief vehicle. This was last year. A decision was made by the capital planning committee and the town, which I believe was the correct one last year, was to defer a lot of these vehicles because we were in a more early stage of the pandemic and there were concerns about potential impacts, and we asked everybody to wait a year. The Chief Gill became the chief in July. The chief's vehicle that he has a bunch of issues, which I'll briefly let him get into. And we were trying to find a way to make this work, if you will. He did submit a capital request, which is before the capital committee now for a new vehicle. What the issue is, there are really two issues. One is the vehicle that the chief is currently using is continuing to go out for service and probably, as it stands right now, wouldn't pass inspection, and there's issues there. The second issue is because of COVID, the length it's taking to replace vehicles. And for example, and the chief put in his memo, one of the cruiser that they got approved for last year has not arrived. And the facilities vehicle, which was approved last year, still hasn't arrived. There are significant delays. So the issue is, and I believe, and I think many would believe strongly, is that the chief of police, as the chief law enforcement officer, needs to have a safe, reliable vehicle, which he doesn't have right now. If we go through the capital process, which we would normally do, which the chief is planning to do, the issues are assuming town meeting approval, which generally would be the case. The funding wouldn't be available till May. And then with the ordering, the length is, as the chief is estimating, it could be December, it could be a year from now before the vehicle. So what we were putting forth to the board for consideration is to authorize a reserve fund transfer under, this is sort of a extraordinary scenario, which is one of the criteria of the RFT, that with approval of the RFT, we'll be able to start this process sooner and get the chief the appropriate vehicle sooner. So that is what we're sort of here to discuss with you this evening. And Mr. Chair, through you, Chief Gill, that if I missed anything, or if Chief, if you want to say anything briefly through the chair.
Through the chair. No, I think you covered it pretty well, Mr. Pomprian. I don't make this request lightly. I put this through in capital with every intent to go through the capital process. Almost on cue as we started to build this out, the vehicle, the problems that I had heard about with the vehicle crept up with full vengeance on me to a point where we had to have the car towed out of the lot here just to get it to the service station. There are multiple electrical issues, and when it was there, we learned that there were several issues that that needed to be taken care of, and some of them that were going to be prohibitive to getting in and get it inspected. And it's though there is a grace period for any vehicle to be on the road with a violation, I don't think that it's proper that our police vehicles should be driving around with rejection stickers until we can get them fixed. We're kind of this is where the difficulty comes. We'll still be waiting for a car no matter what, and we'd still have to get necessary the necessary items fixed on these vehicles. So it's almost like a catch-22. So what I'm asking is, or just maybe really bringing to light that we may be paying a lot just to keep this car running, and going through maybe a process that we can identify now, we might be able to kind of head off 6 months of repairs to keep it going.
Thank you, Chief Gill. Scott or Janice, any questions for Robert or for the chief?
I have no questions, but he's right. We can't be having, especially the chief of police, driving around in a rejected vehicle.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah, I agree with that. Chief, my only question is just from the capital planning requests that were submitted. What kind of vehicle will this be?
So we're looking at I'm taking kind of a lead from the brief meeting we had the other day in going towards the non hybrid vehicle, the larger SUV.
Okay. All right, thank you. And follow-up question for Robert, or if Lisa is still on. So the second email that we got regarding the reserve fund transfer fund, which we had a 300,000 for the budget, 122,000 of CARES Acts has been denied. So if we read that correctly, the 300,000 less the CARES, just to, in case those aren't, the appeal process is not successful, and the chief's car is replaced, we would still be left with 98,000 in the fund for the rest of the year. Is that correct?
Correct. So, yeah,
okay.
Correct. So to Selectman Hood's point, there was 300,000 in the reserve fund. There were RFT number 1 for the COA senior software was 4,500. There's $122,210 in costs, which the CARES Act funding has originally denied. We have formally appealed those, and a little piece of good news is we know that 7,000 of that 122 is going to be approved. We're waiting on the bigger piece, but we got a little bit of an update. We have a formal appeal with the CARES program on that. And yes, so if worst case scenario, we get that 122, we don't get on appeal, and you did the chief's vehicle, there'd be 98,000 remaining in the reserve fund.
So I guess my follow-up question or I guess my follow-up concern is, if we've spent 122,000 so far through December for additional costs related to the pandemic, we would have 98,000 for the remaining 7 months of the year. And I'm just saying that it's not going to impact my support for the chief's vehicle. Sorry, I don't want to come across that way. Just it's the accountant in me just doing numbers and overthinking everything. Okay.
No, my opinion, it is a concern I think we all have. And as Chief Gill mentioned, we don't come to the board lightly with this request. It's just this is sort of the option where, sort of the corner we're in.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And anything else, Janice?
No.
Okay, all right, I don't have any further questions either. So I'll entertain a motion if we're ready for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the reserve fund transfer in the amount of $76,701 for account 01221058590 as presented.
Seconded.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And the reserve fund transfer is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, unless there's any other questions from the select board, that concludes my report, and I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Pomperand. Brings us, the next item on our agenda is approval of meeting minutes from November 16th, 2021.
I did not have any changes.
I had no changes.
Neither did I. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the select board approve the meeting minutes from Tuesday, November 16th, 2021, as presented in the packet.
Second.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, and the meeting minutes are approved. Brings us to our last item, adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I enthusiastically second.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We are adjourned at 8:06 p.m.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.